In this video, we are going to dive into a viral Facebook post that has been making waves on the internet recently. It calls out Nigerian YouTube movies for having scripts that seem to be targeted at the lowest brain people. Strong words, right? We'll be unpacking the post, reacting to the examples given, and doing some deep analysis of why some of these storylines seem to miss the mark for a lot of viewers. Is there really an issue with the scripting in some Nigerian YouTube movies? Why do these unrealistic scenarios keep popping up? And of course, we'll be looking at how actors like Maurice get involved in these types of roles. You won't want to miss this. So before we get into it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Let's get started. Alright, let's read the post first for context. It says, some Nigerian YouTube movies are likely for the lowest brain people. I believe that is the idea of the target audience they have in mind, because nobody, I repeat, nobody who has a dubious intention in someone's house will pick a call from their partner in crime. The same partner they planned everything with and begin to talk aloud and narrate the same plan to the same person they planned it with. For example, a girl is cheating on her billionaire fiancé. She and her other boyfriend plan to dub him of a huge sum of money and pin her pregnancy on him to get him vulnerable. Now, the girl in question, while in the fiancé's house, the boyfriend called to know how far with the plans. She now picked the call openly in the sitting room and talked out loud. Yes, baby, I know, I am on it. I know we planned with you, my boyfriend, to put this pregnancy on him so that I can get 100 million from him and give to you so we can relocate to the US. I know, and I love you. I tried to steal his money yesterday, but I forgot his password. Just be patient. Haba mana, haba, as in no sign of hiding or something. Next thing, boom, the fiancé had and he's chasing her out of the house. Now, this Maurice himself is always a billionaire in such badly scripted movies. Oh boy, there is a lot to unpack here. Let's get into it. So, first things first, let's talk about this idea that some Nigerian YouTube movies are made for the lowest brain people. I think we need to pause here and take a more balanced view. I mean, yes, some plots do seem widely unrealistic or poorly thought out, but does that mean these movies are targeting people with low intelligence? Not necessarily. There are a few things we have to consider here. The quality of scripting in movies isn't always about who the audience is. Sometimes it's about budget constraints, production speed, or just lazy writing. But let's be honest, the post makes a valid point when it comes to how some of these things play out. I mean, seriously, who in their right mind would pick up a phone and start loudly narrating an entire criminal scheme while they are in the same house as the person they are trying to deceive? This example of the cheating girlfriend blatantly talking about her plans to scam her billionaire fiancé is a case in point. It's the kind of things that pulls you out of the movie because it's just so unrealistic. Now, let's analyze this in a bit more. Why do we keep seeing these ridiculous moments in Nigerian YouTube movies? I think the problem lies in a combination of things. First, there is a pressure to create content quickly. Nigerian YouTube movie producers are often working on tight schedules and budgets, which can lead to rushed storylines. When you don't have enough time to carefully craft a scene, the result is often a plot that feels forced or contrived. A scene like the one described in this Facebook post, where a character openly discusses a crime they are committing over the phone while their victim is within earshot, feels like it was written in a hurry without much thought for realism. But there is also something else at play here, and that's the over dramatization of certain situations. Nigerian movies, especially those targeted at YouTube audiences, often lean heavily into melodrama. The writers and producers may be thinking, what's the quickest way to create a shocking or climatic moment in the story? And sometimes that leads to ridiculous scenarios where a character does something that no rational person would do, like picking up a phone in the middle of a house and loudly confessing to a crime. Now, let's talk about a little bit about Maurice, who was mentioned in the post. The Facebook user significantly points out that he's often cast as a billionaire in these kinds of poorly written movies. And it's true, Maurice has gained a reputation for playing the role of the rich, suave, and often clueless guys who get taken advantage of by scheming women or business partners. But does that mean Maurice is to blame for the bad script? Absolutely not. He's an actor, and like any actor, is taking on roles that are offered to him. The issue here isn't with the actors, it's with the writers and producers. Still, it's worth noting that certain actors do get typecast. Maurice seems to be one of those actors who gets placed in the same type of role over and over again. He's the billionaire, the rich guy who often oblivious to the schemes going on around him. And while that might be a great role for him, it showcases his acting chops. It can also mean that he ends up in some less than stellar films. I mean, let's be real. How many times can we watch a billionaire character get scammed in the same ridiculous way before we want to roll our eyes? So why do we as an audience keep watching this kind of movies if the scripts are so bad? That's the $1,000,000 question, isn't it? I think part of the answer lies in the escapism these movies offer. Sure, the platform might be absurd and the acting might be over the top, but for a lot of people, that's part of the appeal. Sometimes you don't want to watch something that is super realistic or grounded in everyday logic. Sometimes you want to watch a movie where a woman cheats on a billionaire fiancé, gets caught in the most ridiculous way possible, and all hell breaks loose. So it's entertainment, plain and simple, but at the same time there's a balance that needs to be struck. While it's okay for a movie to be entertaining, it shouldn't be so unrealistic that it takes the audience out of the story. That's what the Facebook post is getting at. When the suspension of disbelief is shattered, the audience starts to lose interest, and that's a problem. Let's dig a little deeper into the specific scene described in the post. The woman is in her fiancé's house talking to her boyfriend about their plan to scam in. She's on the phone in the living room speaking loudly enough for anyone nearby to hear her. Why is this such a huge mistake in terms of storytelling? First of all, it breaks the basic rules of character behavior. If someone is committing a crime, they are going to be secretive about it. They are not going to openly discuss their plans in a public settings, especially not in a victim's house. The fact that this character does so is not only unrealistic but also insulting to the audience intelligence. It assumes that we as viewers will notice how absurd this situation is. Secondly, it makes the character seem unbelievably dumb. If this woman is supposed to be smart enough to orchestrate a scheme to scam a billionaire, why would she be so clueless and careless as talk about it openly in his house? It doesn't make sense, and when characters act in ways that doesn't make sense, it weakens the overall story. And another issue with this kind of scene is that it's predictable. As soon as the woman starts talking on the phone, we know exactly what's going to happen. The fiancé is going to overhear her, is going to realize he's being scammed, and is going to confront her. There is no tension, no suspense, because we can see the outcome coming from a mile away. And that predictability is a big problem in Nigerian YouTube movies. If the audience can guess exactly what's going to happen as soon as the scene starts, they are going to lose interest. Good storytelling involves keeping the audience on their toes, making them wonder what's going to happen next. In this case, the scene fails to do that because it's so obvious where it's heading. Now, let's think about how this scene could have been written differently to make it more believable and engaging. Instead of having the woman pick up the phone and talk loudly about her plans, maybe she could step out of the room to make the call. That would make more sense, right? She's in the house of the person she's coming, so she's going to be careful. She steps outside or goes to the bathroom thinking she's in the clear. But what if the fiancés overhears her anyways, maybe through an open window or because he's eavesdropping? That would create tension because the audience will be wondering if he's going to catch her or not. It adds an element of surprise that is missing from the original version of the scene. Now, let's also talk about the role of dialogue in this kind of scene. The dialogue the Facebook post described is just plain clunky. Nobody talks like that in real life, especially when they are discussing something as sensitive as a criminal plan. Saying things like, "I know we plan with you, my boyfriend, to put this pregnancy on him," is just too on the nose. It's as if the script is trying to spoon feed the audience every single detail instead of trusting that we are smart enough to figure it out on our own. A better approach would be to have the character speak more vaguely. Maybe she says something like, "I'm working on it, just give me some time." That way the audience knows what she's talking about without her having to spell it out. It's more realistic and adds a layer of subtlety that the original version is lacking. Now, I want to circle back to something important that the Facebook post touched on: the target audience. The post implies that these movies are being made for people with low intelligence. I don't think that's entirely fair. Yes, some Nigerian YouTube movies have bad scripts and unrealistic plot lines, but that doesn't mean the people watching them are unintelligent. In fact, the audience for these movies is incredibly diverse. Some people watch them for the drama and entertainment, while others might watch them out of curiosity or because they are fans of certain actors. The real issue isn't the intelligence of the audience, it's the quality of the content being produced. Just because a movie is intended to be light entertainment doesn't mean it has to be poorly written. There are plenty of examples of entertaining and dramatic movies that still have strong scripts and well-developed characters. The problem is that some Nigerian YouTube movies are taking shortcuts in their storytelling, and that's what is turning people off. We also have to consider the cultural context of these movies. Nigerian movies, especially those made for YouTube, often reflect the values and issues that are relevant to Nigerian society. For example, the storyline described in the Facebook post, where a woman is trying to scam a billionaire and pin a pregnancy on him, might seem far-fetched, but is rooted in themes that are common in Nigerian storytelling. Infidelity, deceit, and the quest for wealth are topics that resonate with a lot of people, which is truly why we see them over and over again in these movies. However, just because these themes are relatable doesn't mean they should be handled poorly. It's one thing to tell a story about a woman trying to deceive a rich man. It's another thing entirely to do it in a way that feels lazy and unrealistic. If these themes are going to be exploited, they should be done in a way that respects the intelligence of the audience and doesn't rely on cheap tricks or absurd plot points. Speaking of absurd plot point, let's talk about the idea of the woman forgetting the billionaire's password. This is another example of lazy writing that undermines the story. If the character is smart enough to concoct a scheme to scam a billionaire, she's probably smart enough to figure out how to access his money without needing to forget his password. It's little details like this that make the audience roll their eyes and lose faith in the story. A more believable plot twist would be if she tried to steal the money but got in the act, or if fiancé had set a trap for her knowing that she was up to something. That would create suspense and tension rather than just relying on the glitch of a character being too dumb to remember a password. This brings us to another important point, the role of suspense in storytelling. Good movies, even those meant to be entertaining and light-hearted, still need to have some elements of suspense to keep the audience engaged. When the plot is too predictable or the characters are too obvious, the suspense disappears and the audience starts to lose interest. In the example from the Facebook post, there is no suspense because we already know what's going to happen. The woman is going to get caught, the fiancé is going to chase her out, and that's the end of the story. A better way to build suspense would be to have the woman think she's in the clear, only for the fiancé to slowly piece together what's going on. Maybe he starts to notice little inconsistency in her story or overhears part of her conversation without her knowing. That will keep the audience guessing and create a more engaging storyline. Now let's talk about the role of the audience in all of this. Why do we as viewers keep coming back to these kind of movies even when we know the scripts are bad? I think part of the reason is that these movies offer a certain kind of comfort. They are predictable, sure, but that predictability can be comforting in its own way. We know what to expect, and sometimes that's exactly what we are looking for. But at the same time, there is a limit to how much we can tolerate bad storytelling. If a movie is too predictable or too poorly written, it starts to feel like a waste of time. That's when we start to see posts like the one on Facebook where people are calling out the bad scripts and asking for something better. So what's the solution? How can Nigerian YouTube movies improve their storytelling without losing the entertainment value that makes them so popular? First, there needs to be more focus on quality control. Writers and producers need to take the time to develop their scripts and make sure they make sense. That means avoiding absurd plot points like characters loudly discussing their criminal plans in front of the person they are trying to deceive. It also means paying attention to dialogues and making sure it sounds natural and believable. Second, there needs to be more variety in the types of stories being told. Too often, we've seen the same plot lines repeated over and over again. Rich man gets scammed, woman cheats on her fiancé, someone gets framed for a crime they didn't commit. These stories can be entertaining, but only if they are done well and with a fresh perspective. Finally, actors like Maurice who often find themselves in these types of roles should be given more opportunities to show their range. Maurice is a talented actor, but when he's always playing the same type of character, it limits his potential. If we want to see better performances from actors like him, We need to see them in better written movies with more complex characters. So in conclusion, the Facebook post raises some valid points about the state of Nigerian YouTube movies. While it's easy to dismiss these movies as being made for a less intelligent audience, the truth is that the problem lies in the writing and production, not the viewers. By focusing on better scripts, more realistic characters, and more varied stories, Nigerian YouTube movies can continue to be entertaining without sacrificing quality. So, what do you guys think? Have you noticed these same issues in Nigerian YouTube movies? Do you think the problem is with the writers, the actors, or the audience? Let me know in the comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more reactions and analysis like this one. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.